Now, you are a relationship expert. Tell me, why are you so passionate about helping people navigate relationships?
What I've learned in the last 20 years is that everything is about relationships. So if I'm working in executive coaching space with entrepreneurs, captains of industry, it's all about relationships, how they relate to people. And then it moves into different segments, our intimate relationships, our relationships with children, our relationships with ourselves even. Everything, every piece of work I do, fundamentally all comes back to what's the quality of relationship somebody's having.
And you hosted that show, Starting Over, and The Big Stuff.
Yep.
Tell me a bit about those TV projects.
Well, the first one, The Big Stuff. So if we're going to relate that to relationships, it was about people's relationships to stuff and how they were living. And that had a knock-on effect to the people they were sharing their lives with, as in some of them couldn't even come in the houses because there was so much stuff.
Tell us a bit more about that show for people who might not have seen it.
Well, there were 10 episodes, a primetime TV3 show. So we went into people's houses and we literally removed every single one of their belongings. We emptied the entire house and took it to a warehouse. And what I did was I stayed with these people for anything up to 5 to 7 days. And what the people did was they all had a different set of circumstances. There was one young couple who had a 5-year-old daughter who, when I say the house was literally full of toys, I mean, I opened the front door and I was up to my calves in toys.
So these people are hoarders, really?
Well, I'm not absolutely sure that particular couple's issue was hoarding. It was about finding a language of love to their daughter, which was about buying her things every day. And what we actually had was a 4-year-old who was running the house.
Wow.
So she actually had her parents going to bed at 7:15. And the bed, she'd moved into their bedroom. So look, was it all about relationships? Yeah, it was all about relationships. Yeah. You'd be pleased to know by the end of it, the little girl ended up with her own bedroom. And we removed, probably 95% of the toys and gave them quite a strict behavioural modification programme to stop going out and buying stuff. So the big stuff was really about things that people accumulated in their lives that were stopping them living the lives they wanted.
And everything that you've done, the common theme is about helping people move forward to live the life that they deserve. So give us some idea of how relationships impact people and what they can do about it.
Well, not to be left out, I now want to talk about sex. That wasn't actually why I came, but we can't body swerve this.
Do you want to do some belly dancing?
No. Trust me, that we don't want. Otherwise, this ain't going to go to air. Look, I've been on this earth quite a long time now. Okay, the number begins with a 5.
Not that long, is it? Does it begin with a 5?
It begins with a 5.
Good for you.
And if we're actually going to talk sex and we're going to talk about intimate relationships, one of the areas I do quite a lot of work with is with families. And I'll be called in because the manner in which the family isn't working, and usually it's because teenagers or whatever are acting out. But it's actually the parents I end up working with. And this is the world according to Sian. It doesn't make me right. Well, actually, it does make me right. But what I'm trying to say is that all families start with parents. So my belief is that if you choose to bring kids in the world, the priority is to look after yourselves. So looking after the intimacy of your relationship, finding time to be together. You are not a parent all the time. You need to find a space where you are the person you were before you brought these squatters into the world. And if I look at most relationships that get into crisis, it's because they lose their way within that. And I think in today's world, the phrase they use is helicopter parenting. Well, it's a ludicrous way if you actually stop back and think about it, because you're not preparing kids for a life of independence. Now, I don't know any parents who brought kids into the world with the intention of keeping them in their living room until they were in their 70s and 80s. But until parents understand that actually the job is to create independence, and you do that by teaching them that it's okay for two adults, i.e. you as the parents, to have intimacy of a relationship, and withdrawing from being there with kids all the time, going away for the night, going out for date nights, and working hard on actually sustaining a sexual relationship that I think there's a lot of people that I work with who you get very tired, there's a lot of pressures in life, there's jobs, there's money, there's, we live in New Zealand, so a lot of people I work with have emigrated to New Zealand, and the pressures of life tear the intimacy of their relationships apart. And I would be saying that that's where all relationships begin and end. Mm-hmm. That if you can wake up together and smile and think, yep, that's the person I actually want to wake up to, and you can go to sleep thinking, yep, that's the person whose head I want to be next to on the pillow, then the chances are you are going to survive a lifetime of a relationship. But it is that intimacy, and sex is a fundamental part of every relationship, and body swerving it and pretending it's not important creates gaps and spaces in lives that a lot of the time are very, very difficult to mend. When I start working with couples and families, that's one of the questions I will ask them. And if the intimacy in a relationship hasn't been there for over a year, I know I'm in for hardcore work to get them back together.
Mm. You're absolutely right. People get overtaken by the lives of their children, don't they?
Absolutely, they do.
So if someone's sitting here listening to this and they go, oh, yeah, I can see that is creeping into my relationship, because it kind of creeps in over time, what initial steps would you advise them that they can take right now?
Ask yourself a fundamental question. Why did you bring children into the world? What is it that they're there for? You need to create a vision. So what is success going to look like? Now, if your vision, as I say, is having your kid sitting in the living room with you when you're in your 70s, then rock on, because that's exactly what you're going to get. Yeah. But if you want to be looking at kids who have a life where they know how to make choices, they know how to be emotionally robust and emotionally independent, that they're not looking to you as parents, create the vision. What is it? What kind of young people, what kind of human beings are you part of creating? Yeah. Don't just presume they're going to end up being independent adults, because they're not, unless you teach them.
Is it more common now that kids don't seem to, in my day, kids were a bit more self-sufficient. I hear so many people say, oh, kids don't do a darn thing around the house. Is that reality, or is that just...
It absolutely is reality. Again, this is the world according to Sian. I think there are several reasons for that. If I look at my own life experience, I think that if you're a working mom, and again, I was the generation that went out there and did 70 odd hours a week and had 3 kids under 5. I'm not absolutely quite sure how I did it, but my kids learned how to use...
She had sex.
Yeah, I had lots of sex. My kids all learned to use a microwave years before they should have done. I think what we've got is we've got mums who are very guilty. So when they do come home, they create these Mickey Mouse worlds where they want to do everything for their kids. They want to buy them everything and they want to do everything to try and fill that gap of not being present. I also think that there is a preciousness that is born of fear, that the world we live in, if we actually absorbed every bit of news and everything that was written in the newspaper and everything we hear in the school playground, as parents, we become very, very fearful. Everybody's world is challenging, and as parents, you want to keep your kids close and keep them safe. But I would say that's not actually our job. Our job is to prepare independent young adults.
Yeah. And actually, you've been involved in this fabulous book, which is Parenting by the Stars. Some amazing names in there, as well as your own. Tell me a bit about the book.
Well, 2 young ladies, Marie and Paula, came up to me, and they'd had an idea that they wanted to collect stories from, I'm laughing, stars, celebrities, I'm not quite sure what that means. But anyway,
TV personalities.
People that the public know.
Yeah.
And what they wanted to do was kind of offer them an opportunity to see that the challenges that we have as parents, everybody has.
And there's some great wisdom in this book.
It's easy to pick up, flick through, and I think be inspired and a bit supported. One of the other things I do want to say is that the whole purpose of the book was to create some funds for Dyslexia Foundation of New Zealand. Both of these ladies who put this book together are moms, and it's something that they're very passionate about, and I am too. I mean, I am actually dyslexic, so it was a fabulous opportunity to raise some funds, raise some awareness. There's recipes at the back which are quite funny, and every single penny goes to the Dyslexic Foundation. So please go out, get yourself a copy, give them as presents. It's it's quite inspiring.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.